Hey guys, it's Benzie and I'm back with another video. Today I want to talk about my makeshift setup for recording and editing videos. And I say makeshift because that's what it is. I don't have a huge budget for my projects right now. I'm hoping that my YouTube channel can eventually take off and start funding upgrades in equipment, but I will do some upgrades on my own. Today I want to run through each section of what I use in my videos and what the possible upgrade path for each of those sections is. Because I'm going to be talking about these things in sections, I'll be talking about the upgrades as well as I get to that section. So the upgrades are not going to be mentioned in the order in which I will be purchasing them, but rather the order in which I get to that item. At the end of this video, I will list everything again in the order that I plan on purchasing them. Let's start with the camera. I use the Fujifilm X-T30 to shoot my videos with a couple of different lens options. And I'll actually link my video review of the Fujifilm X-T30 right here. And the link to that video is in the description of this one. For lenses, I typically use one of three. I have the 18-55 2.8-4 Fuji XF lens, which gives me a nice range. I also use a vintage 50mm Olympus 1.4 that I've adapted to Fuji FX mount. And finally, today's video is shot on my 7 Artisans 25mm 1.8. Because this is an APS-C camera, there is a crop factor with all of those lenses. My 18-55 ends up being more of a 27-82. The 25mm would then be closer to a 40, and the 50 becomes a 75. Thankfully, the space that I'm shooting in has a good amount of area behind the camera, which gives me a little bit of variability in where I'm going to be placing the camera and the tripod based on the lens that I'm using. The other thing about the vintage lens and the 7 Artisans lens is that they are both manual focus only. So I do have to have my wife sit in this chair ahead of time so I can get the focus correct. But once I have it right, then it doesn't really need to change at all because I don't move from this spot. So let's start with the upgrades here. I want to get my hands on a decent Fuji X prime lens. That way I can have the fast aperture that I get from my vintage lens or my 7 Artisans lens, but I can also get the autofocus that I have for my 18-55. Although the range is nice, because this is simply a talking head video and I have all that space behind, as I said, I really have some latitude with using prime lenses versus variable zoom lenses. Yes, there are solutions to using the manual focus lens and not having to have somebody else focus for me, but that would involve a remote follow focus like the Tilta Nucleus Nano and a really good monitor with focus assist features on it. Right now, that's just a little bit out of my budget and kind of silly. This isn't a movie, this is just a YouTube video, and although I want to give the best quality I can, I also do need to make some compromises when it comes to ease of use. For B-roll, I typically use my iPhone 12 Pro Max, and many times I will pair it with my DJI Osmo Mobile 3 gimbal. I could shoot the B-roll with my X-T30, but because it doesn't have in-body image stabilization, the combination of my mobile gimbal and the iPhone 12 Pro Max having IBIS makes it much easier to get that B-roll on my phone. And I use VideoMic Pro, so I do have the ability to shoot in a log profile on my iPhone and edit the colors the way I want them to be. So the next upgrade to talk about then would be a gimbal for my camera. As I said, there's no IBIS, but a gimbal would allow me to stabilize my shot really well, and at that point I probably would switch over to most of my B-roll coming out of my camera. The gimbal that I would probably choose in this case would be the Zhiyun Crane M3. I'm not sure if it's actually released yet. I've tried to find it on BH Photo, and there it says it's pre-order, but it might just be out of stock right now. The Crane M3 is a small gimbal that I could probably fit into the bag that I'm already using, but it gives a lot of power with 3-axis stabilization and an interesting attachment head. You can plug in a microphone and use it on any 1/4 inch mount with that extra head. Another interesting part of my setup is that I can't see myself. So for the first time in this video, I actually can. I purchased an HDMI capture card yesterday and it arrived today. And I have that plugged into my camera, so now I'm able to see myself, and that's actually what my laptop is doing here on this little desk that I now have in my setup as well. I would like to upgrade that to the Elgato Camlink so that I could get 4K, and I believe I would be able to get 4K 30 and 10-bit 420. I wouldn't be able to get the full 10-bit 422 that I would be able to get with a Atomos Ninja V. However, I can also see myself with that, whereas with the Atomos Ninja V, it'll be a very small screen on top of my camera, and I am super blind, so I'm not sure how much that would help as far as being able to monitor myself. Final upgrade here would be a teleprompter. I haven't done a lot of research into what teleprompter I would use, but currently my entire script is on my iPad, which is right here. In previous videos, it was actually off on a couch to my right. And it just really isn't convenient to have to make cuts in the video every time my gaze shifts downwards, or I have to grab an iPad from the side. For audio, I use a Boya Lavalier mic. I also do have a Rode Video Micro, and both of these work okay for me. I prefer to not have a microphone in my shot at all, and I do have a boom stand that I've used for other videos with the Rode Video Micro, but it's not the ideal microphone. And for talking head videos, I really can get away with clipping a lavalier right here. I intentionally actually wear dark shirts to hide it a little bit. So a few upgrades here. As I said, I really do prefer a boomed mic setup, so a nicer mic above me would be one of my upgrades in this area. I've really looked heavily into the Rode VideoMic Go 2. It seems like it's just a miniature Rode NT5 with a couple of added features and a couple of things stripped away. No, there's no XLR output, but you gain the ability to control it with an app, and it's all phantom power, so I don't have to worry about batteries. Another upgrade in this area would be the Rode Wireless Go 2s. This would give me the ability not to have my mic plugged directly into my camera, as it is right now, and because there's two channels, I would be able to use it for future interview setups, which I plan on doing, or videos where I have a guest, like my dad, who I'm going to have some upcoming videos with, hopefully soon. Finally, I'd love to do some sound treatment in this area. Again, that's something I haven't looked heavily into, so I'll leave it at that. All right, lighting. I have the jankiest lighting setup. So my key light, which is right over here, that's a Neewer LED on-camera panel. Then I have a ring light that I borrowed from my sister and never gave back. I'm using that as a hair light back over there. There is a little cake pan combined with an LED strip and a pillowcase over here acting as my fill light for this video. This is my third video, and each one has had a slightly different lighting setup. I'm testing out as much as I can with what I already have, or what would be very cheap for me to acquire. However, I really want to change my lighting setup drastically. So the upgrades in this area. First thing is that I need to get an actual Cobb LED video light. And the one that I've been looking into a lot is the GVM P80 S2. It's actually on sale on their website for buy one, get one free for $149 right now. It's an 80-watt Cobb light, and the buy one, get one free would come with reflector dishes for each of them, as well as their power supplies. I would then have to purchase the stands separately, and for one of them I would probably get a softbox and make that my key light. The other one could stick with the reflector dish and replace the ring light in the back as my hair light. I will replace the fill light with my LED panel, so I'll have a lot more control over where the shadows are on that side of my face. For everything I mentioned for lighting, that would put me back about $235, which is less than the cost of a single aperture 120D that a lot of people use. And because I'm in such a small space, I can really get away with an 80-watt light very easily. Lastly, for my lighting, behind me I have a neon banana that I found at Goodwill for $10, and I thought it was funny, so I picked it up. And I didn't at the time plan on using it in my YouTube background, but why not? I don't have anything else, so it's there. Next to that, I built a few shelves for my backdrop, and on those shelves I put an LED strip, and I typically have that on blue. As well, there is a little LED bar that I saw at Marshall's, so a little bit of extra accent lighting. All right, last thing is editing. I use this MacBook Air. It is the M1 model, but it is the absolute base model. So it's got the 8-core CPU, 7-core GPU, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and 256 gigabyte hard drive. I do use a hub with it, and I have a additional 260 gigabyte SSD that I have plugged in most of the time. All of my footage gets saved onto there, and I actually edit my footage from there. In addition to that, I also do use my iPad. It's a really nice mobile editing workstation. So I have a dongle for that and I can plug my SD cards in there. I do most of my photo editing on there, and before I got my MacBook, I did all of my video editing on there as well. And I use the Adobe suite for all of my editing. Mainly, I'm using Premiere for video, Audition for audio, After Effects for effects, and then I use Lightroom and Photoshop for photos. And I've done a couple of things in After Effects where I used Photoshop to create a shape or a series of shapes, and then I took them into After Effects to make an effect out of them. So upgrades here, I'm really okay with where I'm at right now, but if I were going to upgrade, I would switch to a MacBook Pro. I'd really like to stay with a laptop versus a desktop, although the new Mac Studio does look pretty cool. The 14-inch MacBook Pro with probably middle specs would do plenty for me. I would like to have more storage so I don't necessarily have to carry around my SSD, but currently I shoot all of my videos in 1080p, so it's not taking up a ton of space anyway. I would also like to upgrade to the new iPad mini. It's not necessary, but it looks really cool. All right, so recapping all of the things that I would like to upgrade. The first thing that I would like to upgrade is my lighting. That really needs to change as soon as possible. So that's the GVM P80s, and hopefully the buy one get one free deal. The second thing I'd like to upgrade would be the capture card. I know I just got it yesterday, but the Elgato would actually give me a lot more latitude with color grading because I would be able to shoot in F-Log and have it actually be usable, versus right now I do shoot in the Eterna profile, which is great, but it's not the flattest profile that it could be. That would be F-Log. The third thing I'd like to upgrade would be my audio, the Rode Wireless Go 2 specifically. The Rode VideoMic Go 2 could wait a little bit. So those first three, I definitely would like to upgrade in the pretty near future, especially the lighting. The next ones are things that I could do, but I won't necessarily do very soon. So the fourth thing would be my iPad. I just really like the new iPad mini and would love to get my hands on that. Fifth would be the teleprompter. As I said, I need to do more research with that. Then sixth would be audio again, back to that Rode VideoMic Go 2, and sound treatment for my room. Finally would be the new MacBook. Again, I'm pretty happy with what I have right now, so I don't feel the need to upgrade that. But if a deal came along that I couldn't resist, maybe. All right, a couple things that I didn't mention. I am still using the iPhone 12 Pro Max, even though the 13 has been out for a while. I didn't upgrade to the iPhone 13 Pro Max because it's the S model. It's the model after they released the new shiny iPhone 12. And no, they didn't give it an S name because the S names actually sell lower. However, there's not a ton there that I really liked. I especially wasn't huge into cinematic mode. Really, the only thing that I would have wanted was ProRes RAW, but I'll stick it out for the iPhone 14. The other thing is that I think I've mentioned in my first video about the X-T30, I would really like to fully rig out my camera with a cage and V-mount batteries and a monitor on top. That is way down the road, so it really didn't merit more than this tiny mention at the end. Alrighty guys, thanks so much for watching. If you liked it, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, and obviously subscribe. I would like to grow this channel as much as I can in the near future. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.